Welcome back to Decked Out.
On today's episode, we are joined by Dana Fischer and Airball. And thanks to our sponsor, Moxfield, we're going to be playing decks submitted by you, our wonderful community.
And today's decks were submitted by Nick Tercy, Dananthuss, TheRealLingani1 and Sydney Gronquist. And of course, as always, thank you to our other sponsors, Tales of Adventure and Ultimate Guard, but more on all of them later in the video.
That's enough from us for now. Let's go ahead, meet the players, and see what kind of decks you submitted.
Hello, my name is Dana Fischer, and I've been playing competitive Magic for 8 years, since I was 6 years old. And you can find me on almost every social media platform at Dana Fischer MTG. And I also stream with my dad on Twitch, on our family Twitch channel, Fischer Magic. And today I'm going to be playing Yadora Grave Gardener, created by the community member Dananthuss. And I saw a couple Nisses in there, and I'm hoping that I can get those online and make a bunch of creatures that then die and become forests, which make my Nisses stronger.
It's time for an out-of-this-world experience with this Iraxa Empress of Mars list submitted by our community member Sydney Gronquist. Now, storms on Mars can last up to 3 months or more, and we're gonna be, if all goes well, spending a lot of time storming off at the table too. We're trying to cast spells from anywhere other than our hand and getting paid off in creatures and giant board states. And all we're gonna be doing is casting spells from the top of our deck in order to do it. There's big boom booms in there that we're hoping to get a little bit lucky and hit and strike some Phobos into the hearts of our opponents.
I'm MTGNerdGirl, and today I am playing Nick Tercy's Shadowheart and Haunted One list. This is my kind of deck. A mono black deck that drains out the entire table by getting a bunch of value that my opponents can't really stop or interact with. That's my kind of deck.
I'm VeggieWagon, and I get the pleasure of playing TheRealLingani's Patron of the Moon deck. This means I get to play Moonfolk, some of the worst creatures in the history of Magic, for a big payoff of infinite landfall in mono blue. I could not ask for more.
Special thank you to today's feature sponsor, that's Moxfield, and thanks to their support, we're able to take your deck lists and feature them here on the show.
And we need your deck for the next community deck episode. All you have to do is go down in the description and find the link to submit your Moxfield list on the Twitter post that link takes you to.
Now that you're thinking about which deck to submit, let's go ahead and get into the game.
Welcome to the table. Let's roll to see who goes first.
16?
11.
18.
Second's good.
16, that's good enough for last.
Yep.
I'm gonna play this snow-covered island and pass the turn. It's gonna take a while for my deck to get going.
Baron Moor and pass turn.
I will play a forest and pass.
I'm gonna start with a mountain, and you've heard of the turn 1 Soul Ring. But what about turn 1 Soul Talisman? I'm going to suspend this for 3. In 3 turns it'll come in and then effectively just be a Soul Ring. And
So
then
just
we'll
a
pass.
worse version of Soul Ring.
It is a significantly worse version of Soul Ring, yes.
It's funny because I have 2 Nissa cards in my hand. You'll find out. You'll find out.
This is blue.
Yeah, mono blue. I have 2 Nissa cards in my hand. They are definitely, by far, the best cards in my hand. I'm gonna play this island and pay 2 for this Dreamscape Artist. This is a 1/1. I can pay 3 mana and tap it and discard a card and sacrifice a land to search my library for up to 2 basic lands, put them into play, and then shuffle. Thank you, Planar Chaos. Dreamscape Artist is a weird color break that allows me to repeatedly landfall in mono blue. That is exactly what my deck needs and probably the only card that can do it. I'll pass.
So green could just do that a lot easier.
Yes.
All right. I will just have some classic ramp, and we'll go swamp for turn, and we're gonna play a charcoal diamond. So I'll get a little ramp of my own, and then I will pass it on over to Dana.
I'm just going to play a forest and pass the turn.
Okay. Upkeep will take a counter off the Soul Talisman. And then I'll play this Spine Rock Knoll. It has Hideaway 4. I'll look at the top 4 and put a card underneath it. And then I can play that card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was dealt 7 or more damage this turn. All right, and we'll hide that away, and then I'll pass to Veggie.
Play a snow-covered island and then pass the turn.
I'm gonna play a swamp for turn, and then I'm gonna go ahead and play Bontu's Monument. Black creature spells I control cost 1 less to cast, and whenever I cast a creature spell, each opponent is gonna lose a life, and I'm gonna gain a life. Yeah, and then I will pass the turn.
How nerd girl of you. Play creature, drain table.
I will draw a card, and I will play a Forest and play a Dungrove Elder. 3 mana hexproof, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of forests I control. Currently, it's 3. Go ahead, Airball.
Okay. Untap, and we'll remove another counter from the talisman. Play a mountain for turn, and then here's 3 for Coalition Relic. At the beginning of my pre-combat main phase, I can take those charge counters off of the relic, and then I'll get mana equal to the number of counters I removed. Then I'll pass.
At the end of your turn, I'm gonna use this weird blue land ramp. I'm going to discard this Wayfarer's Bauble and sacrifice this snow-covered island to find 2 basics and put them into play. There is 2 more snow-covered islands. And now it's my turn. Hey look, it's a snow-covered island. First, I'm going to pay 3 and again activate the Dreamscape Artist. I'm going to discard this Moonbow Illusionist and sacrifice this snow-covered island to search for 2 more snow-covered islands. Boom, boom. And then I'll pay 3 for Bitterthorn, Nissa's Animus. This is a living weapon equipment, so it'll come in with a 0/0 Black Phyrexian Germ. The equipped creature gets +1/+1, and whenever equipped creature attacks, I can search for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle.
I think I know what the second Nissa card in your hand is now.
So now, as a player with the most Nissa cards on the table, I will pass the turn.
Oh, I can't wait for her to kill you in your sleep.
Yeah, and my deck's more Nissa themed anyway. That card can be played in any deck.
Okay, let's go ahead and start by paying 2, and I'm gonna cast Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. A 1/3, this is whenever I gain life, target opponent loses that much life. I can also pay 5 and give creatures I control lifelink until end of turn. I will have a cast trigger from the Dananthuss Monument, which means all of you will lose a life, I'll gain a life. Which unfortunately won't trigger Veto because he's already in play. However, I can cast another black creature, which will trigger it. Taborax Hope's Demise, a 2/2 with flying. He has lifelink as long as I have 5 or more +1/+1 counters on him. And whenever another non-token creature I control dies, I get to put another +1/+1 counter onto Taborax. If that creature was a cleric, I also get to draw a card. If I do, I lose a life. Now this one will trigger Veto. Dananthuss Monument will trigger from casting the Taborax, which means everybody will lose 1, I'll gain 1. And that will trigger Veto, which says whenever I gain life, I can have a target opponent lose that much life.
I'm sorry, Dana. I guess you're gonna have to lose another life.
What makes you think I am?
I will be very honest. These are some of the better cards in the deck, so the deck is very definitely doing what it wants to do. I just don't know if that's good.
All right, well, it's doing what it wants to do. That means you should take 1 Veggie.
Yeah.
And then
I approve.
We'll pass the turn to Dana.
I'm going to play Undergrowth Champion. It's a 3 mana 2/2. If damage would be dealt to Undergrowth Champion while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from Undergrowth Champion. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under my control, it gets a 1/1 counter. So Undergrowth Champion is really key here because with my commander, the creatures that die are turned into forests, and the forests are lands which give the champion landfall. So this guy is basically never gonna take damage again and is gonna be really difficult to remove. Shockingly, I'm gonna play a forest, and this will trigger. It will get a 1/1 counter. Go to combat, and Nerd Girl, you do have the most life, so I will send a 4/4.
Taking it.
Now you're even with the rest of us. Go ahead, Airball.
On your end step, I'm going to put a counter on the Coalition Relic. In my upkeep, at long last, we get our Soul Ring.
Wow.
I will get 1 floating red mana. Play a mountain as my land for turn. I think I will just take the opportunity to bring out my commander. Iraxa, Empress of Mars. It's a 5/4 trample with Battle Cry. And whenever I cast a spell from anywhere other than my hand, make a 2/2 red alien warrior creature token. I'm gonna pay 2 for Electrostatic Field. It's an 0/4 defender. Whenever I cast an instant or sorcery spell, everyone takes a 1. Pass.
With our powers combined, they'll be dead very quickly.
Yes, they will be dead very quickly.
First, I'm going to pay 3. I'm gonna activate my Dreamscape Artist. I'm gonna discard this Sword of the Animist because I think we're doing okay with this one.
The disrespect.
I know. I thought you and I could maybe be friends if you played Nissa cards, but I guess that just went out the window.
That's why I had to put it in the graveyard. Besides, the completed one is better. I'm gonna also.
I disagree.
I will also sacrifice this island, and we're gonna find 2 more islands. 2 more snow-covered islands. Then I'm gonna pay 3 for the Tide Force Elemental. This is a 2/1. I can pay a blue and tap it to tap or untap another target creature, and it has landfall. Whenever a land enters under my control, I can untap Tide Force Elemental. So I can take so many game actions that will still result in just putting more lands into play. Final card for the turn is a Doubling Cube. I can pay 3 and tap it to double the amount of each type of mana in my mana pool. I can't hit anybody with this little germ, so I will pass.
I'm gonna pay 2, and I'm gonna play an Endless Atlas. I can pay 2, tap it, and draw a card. I can only activate if I control 3 or more lands with the same name. And I currently have 3 swamps. And Veggie, take 2, my friend. You're doing too many actions. Oh, what the heck, I might as well just draw right now. I'll use the Atlas, draw a card, and then I'll pass.
I'm going to play a Forest, which will trigger my champion, and it will get a counter. And then I'm just gonna fire off and play my commander, Eudora Grave Gardener. Whenever another non-token creature I control dies, I may return it to the battlefield face down under its owner's control. It's a forest land. I will go to combat, attack Airball with my 4/4.
Yeah, I'm not gonna block that. I'll take
Alright.
4.
And pass the turn.
Okay, on your end step, I'll put another counter on the Coalition Relic and then go to untap. Beginning of my main phase, I will get a floating red mana from the Coalition Relic. And now it's time to have a little bit of fun. We're going to pay 5 for Into the Time Vortex. It's a sorcery with Cascade and Rebound and no other text. So we're going to get an electrostatic field trigger. Everyone's going to lose 1. And then we'll Cascade. Cascade 5, in fact. I'm gonna get a Cold Steel Heart, which is not what we were going for, but we are casting it, so that means we'll get an Araxa trigger. I'll get my 2/2 red alien warrior creature token, represented by this very not red, very not an alien, very not a warrior knight token. And then Rebound happens, so at the beginning of my next turn, I will be able to cast it without paying its mana cost. Into the Time Vortex only has 2 words on it, but they both work perfectly in this deck. Cascade is casting a spell from exile. Rebound, casting a spell from exile. And it doesn't look too scary, but it's the perfect setup for what's gonna come on my next turn. They're not gonna know what hit them. I don't wanna draw Dana's ire.
I've got big beefy green guys.
Well, let's come in for 5 trampling damage to Veggie.
Yeah, no blocks.
Oh, wow.
And we'll pass the turn.
Never thought I'd say it, but I kind of wish I had that Moonfolk that I discarded. I'm gonna play a snow-covered island, and then I'm just going to tap everything that I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and spend 3 of it to activate the Doubling Cube. I've got 5 mana left in my pool, so that will double to 10. I'm going to spend 7 of that for my commander, Patron of the Moon. This is a 5/4 with flying. I could have sacrificed a Moonfolk to reduce its cost, but who cares? I can importantly pay 1 mana to put up to 2 lands from my hand into play tapped. With this remaining 3 mana, I am going to equip Bitter Thorn to my Tide Force Elemental because I would like to use it right now. I'm gonna go to combat and I'm going to attack NerdGirl with this 3/2 Tide Force Elemental.
No blocks.
Yeah! I hit you for 3, and I get to find a land. Surprise, it's a snow-covered island, which will untap my Tide Force Elemental. And then I'll pass a turn.
Okay. I'm just gonna start by using my Atlas again to draw a card. This seems really good. All right, I'm gonna be casting Draugr Necromancer, a 4/4 that says if a non-token creature an opponent control would die, exile that card instead with an ice counter. I can then cast spells that have ice counters on them with mana of any color. When Draugr is cast, it will trigger the Bantu's Monument. All opponents will lose a life, I'll gain a life. And then whenever I gain a life, I can have an opponent lose that much life. I'm a fellow Nissa lover. I'll hit Airball and hope that Dana's nice to me. You're also gonna take 2 more in the air when I attack you.
Sure.
That'll do it. I'm done.
I will play another forest, triggering my Undergrowth Champion. It will get a counter, and then I'm going to tap 6 and play Soul of the Harvest. It is a 6 mana, 6/6 with trample. And then whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under my control, I may draw a card. Veggie, I will send a 6/6 and a 5/5 your way. At least they don't have trample.
Yeah, I'm down to 1 card left in my hand. This Dreamscape artist has done a bunch of work. I'll put it in front of the 6/6.
Okay.
So I'll take 5.
And I'll pass the turn.
All right, on your end step, we'll do the thing again. I'll put another counter on the Coalition Relic. And then, in my upkeep, we are going to rebound into the Time Vortex. We're gonna Cascade again. So that's, again, casting a spell from exile. So Araxa is gonna trigger. We're gonna get another Alien Knight warrior thing. Everyone takes a ping from Electrostatic Field. And now we will Cascade 5. Nope. Into a Memory Worm, which is a 1/1 with Paradox, which says, whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Memory Worm deals 2 damage to target player. That player discards a card and then draws a card, and then we put a counter on the worm. Now we get to draw a card for turn. And now pre-combat main phase, we will get a floating red mana from the Coalition Relic. Let's start by using it. Play this Reckless Impulse. I exile the top 2 cards in my library and I can play them until the end of my next turn. And that will trigger Electrostatic Field. Everyone except me will lose a life. And let's see what we hit. Those look like cards. Here's Dance with Calamity and Ecstatic Beauty. Let's play this mountain as my land for turn, and I did not come here to not cast this Dance with Calamity. It is a sorcery that says shuffle your library. As many times as you choose, you can exile the top card. If the total mana value of those cards is 13 or less, I can cast any number of them without paying their mana costs. That's gonna trigger Electrostatic Field. Everyone's going to lose a life.
I am so jealous of you right now.
That is another spell cast from outside of my hand, so we're going to get another Summoning Sick Alien Warrior, and we will also get a Memory Worm trigger. We'll deal 2 damage to Veggie, and Veggie will discard, then draw, and this will get a +1/+1 counter.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
So
It's kind of appropriate that you get sort of decimated by a worm.
I'm gonna take 2 damage, and I will discard the emergency out I had in my hand, which was Scourge of Fleets, which would have returned all of my opponent's creatures to their hands.
Oh no.
And draw whatever this card is. Oh, that's not a Scourge of Fleets.
You're welcome, table.
Yes.
I was gonna be in such good shape. Scourge of Fleets was going to reset everybody else's boards, leaving me with a big creature to start swinging with and buying me enough time to find some sort of payoff for all of this mana. But now, getting it forcibly cycled away into just an island means that I'm gonna have to get real lucky with my top decks.
Oh, Veggie. Oof.
I thought I was in such good shape.
All right, so we're gonna play some blackjack here. What's our first hit? Mountain. Do it again. We hit a Galvanic Relay, that's 3. We're gonna hit again. Light Up the Stage, that's 6. Do I go again?
Definitely.
We'll go one
Yeah.
more. Inspired Tinkering, that's 11, and I think we'll stop there.
Chicken.
Let's start with Light Up the Stage being the first card we cast without paying its mana cost. We exile the top 2 cards, and until the end of my next turn, I can play them. So we're gonna end up with quite a stack over here. I can play a Metzio Mugger and a Vance's Blasting Cannons. That is a spell that I cast from outside my hand. We're going to get another Knight. It is a sorcery spell, so Electrostatic Field is going to ping everyone for 1. And Memory Worm is going to deal 2 and make someone discard. And it sounded like Veggie was disappointed with the card he got, so we're not gonna give him a chance to draw out of that. We'll spread the love around. We're gonna deal 2 to NerdGirl.
I'll just get rid of the swamp. I'll take the 2 and get to draw.
Next thing we'll do is we'll play an Inspired Tinkering. It's a sorcery. Exile the top 3 cards of your library, and until the end of your next turn, you can play those cards, and then make 3 treasures. And then we have a Iraxa trigger. I'll get another knight, or another warrior rather. We'll get an electrostatic field trigger. Everyone will take one. We'll get a memory worm trigger. And Dana, it's your turn.
All right, I will take 2 and discard a Nature's Lore and draw a card.
And now we can resolve Inspired Tinkering. We'll get to play a Nalfeshnee, a Tavern Brawler, and a Myriad Landscape until the end of the next turn. And finally, we'll cast this Galvanic Relay. And that says, exile the top card of your library. During the next turn, you can play that card, Storm.
Huh.
So that is also a sorcery, so everyone's gonna take 1. I'm gonna get another knight, and my worm is gonna grow. And again, I wanna keep Veggie stuck on cards, so NerdGirl, it's your turn again.
All right, I'm gonna get rid of this card and draw, and I will take the 2.
All right, and our studio judges tell me that I should get 5 copies of Galvanic Relay after going back and watching the tape. So we're gonna exile 5 cards that I can play until the end of my next turn. A Shiny Impetus, a Mountain, Impending Flux, a Mountain, and a Mountain. So I think there's really no choice here but to cast this Impending Flux. It's just a little bit too good. Impending Flux is a sorcery. It deals X damage to each opponent and each creature they control, where X is 1 plus the number of spells I've cast from anywhere other than my hand this turn. That is a sorcery. Everyone's gonna take 1 from Electrostatic Field. We'll get another warrior. We'll get a Memory Worm trigger, and I think it is Dana's turn to take 2 and discard and draw.
I will take 2 and I will discard a Burnished Heart and draw a card.
All right, and all of your teams will take 6. And in fact, you also will take 6.
Yikes.
All right.
All of our creatures take 6?
Creatures and us, yeah.
So I will prevent the damage and just remove a counter from my Undergrowth Champion.
All right, and then when everything else dies, the Necromancer will exile the rest of the opponent's creatures with an ice counter on it. And the only reason I say that is because I might be able to bring the Necromancer back.
Yikes.
I'll choose to put Eudora back in the command zone.
And as if that weren't enough, everyone is going to take 6 upstairs.
Ouch.
You're telling me.
You were at 30 at the start of this turn.
Yeah, I think so.
I am not scared of Veggie. I know his card is bad. So I think I'm going to send the team over at NerdGirl for a total of 15 with the battle cry.
That's happening. I can't stop it. So 5 more and down to 3. Okie dokie.
And I think that's all I can do.
Oh.
That's all. Really?
Exactly enough. That's great. Okay. I'm going to tap all of my islands for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'll spend 3 of it for Doubling Cube. That will give me 14 blue mana. I'm going to spend 9 of it to cast Patron of the Moon again. I will spend 3 of it to equip Bitterthorn. And I might as well spend the last 2 to play the only other card in my hand, which is a Walking Atlas, which just taps to let me put a land from my hand onto the battlefield. Oh. That's the turn. Good luck.
You didn't want to keep that in case Airball decides to wheel you?
Nope.
All right, I'm gonna try to save myself. I don't think it's gonna work. For 2 mana with the discount from Bontu's Monument, we're gonna play Doomed Necromancer. A 2/2 that says I can pay 1, sacrifice Doomed Necromancer, return a creature card from my graveyard to the battlefield. Each opponent will lose a life, I will gain a life. Next up, I'm gonna cast Victimize. It says I can choose 2 cards from my graveyard, 2 creature cards actually, and then sacrifice a creature. If I do, I can put them back onto the battlefield tapped. So I'm gonna choose the Doomed Necromancer. To sacrifice, which will bring back the Veto and the Necromancer. I've got a low life total and I can't put anything on board to block, so I'm probably dead. But if by some chance they leave me alive, then maybe my Necromancer can bring back some of those creatures that were exiled earlier in the game. I'm gonna play a land for turn and then proceed to die. Pass.
Let's see what I can do here. I will draw for the turn. I'm going to start off by playing a Lotus Cobra. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under my control, I can add 1 mana of any color. So I will play a forest. I will make a green mana. And then also, because I played a forest, my Undergrowth Champion will get a +1/+1 counter. and I will use the green mana and these other 5 lands and 2 life to cast Nissa, Ascended Animist.
Here, I think I got a bigger one for you.
Just put it on the table.
Yeah, I'd rather keep a card that's smaller than I am on the battlefield. So +1, make an XX green Phyrexian horror creature token, where X is the number of loyalty counters on Nissa. -1, destroy target artifact or enchantment. And then -7, until end of turn, creatures I control get +1/+1 for each forest I control, and they will all gain trample. Nissa will come in with 5 loyalty, because I spent 2 life. And I will +1 to create a 6/6 Phyrexian Horror. And that's a lot of blockers over there, so I'm just gonna hang back and protect my Nissa. Go ahead, Airball.
All right. Let's start by playing this Mountain from Exile for turn, and then we'll pay 3 for Ecstatic Beauty from Exile. It is a sorcery that says exile the top 3 cards of your library. You can play those cards until the end of your turn, put 4 time counters on each of those cards that has Suspend. That is a sorcery, so everyone's gonna take 1 off the electrostatic field. It is a spell that's not cast from my hand, so we'll get another Alien, and we will get another trigger off of the Memory Worm, and I will put NerdGirl out of her.
Yeah, it hit me.
Why?
Because I have no cards in hand, so I would just draw a card.
You would draw a card. Yeah, no. I think we're gonna try to put NerdGirl out of her misery. We'll deal 2 to her and make her rummage 1. Put another counter on the worm, and then go ahead and resolve Ecstatic Beauty. We get a mountain, and a Lotus Bloom. Not the best hits in the world. And then we're going to go on a blitz with this Mezio Mugger. It is a 3/3 Viashino Rogue. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library, and I can play those this turn and spend manas or mana of any color. That is a spell from outside of my hand. We're going to get another Summoning Sick Knight, and we will get another Memory Worm trigger. And I think I am going to send that one to Dana.
I will discard a Jungle Basin, draw a card, and take 2.
Move to combat. And I'm going to send, so we're gonna send 4 knights at Veggie. We're going to send the Mezio Mugger over at NerdGirl, and we're going to send the entire rest of the team over at Dana. And we'll get a Mezio Mugger trigger, so I will exile the top card of each of your libraries. So we hit a Gauntlet of Power, a Guildless Commons, a Zulaport Cutthroat, and a Mountain, which is not particularly inspiring, but let's go ahead and go to damage and see what happens.
I will block 2 knights.
I have no blocks.
I will block your Araxa with my Phyrexian Horror, and I will double block your Worm with my Undergrowth Champion and Lotus Cobra.
Yes, thank you, Dana. If you kill this, I can maybe help us. I am going to go for the throat and destroy target non-artifact creature, the one that's attacking me.
So that is the Mezio Mugger. It had Blitz, so I draw a card. So NerdGirl takes nothing. Veggie
Dies.
But I will kill 1 of your knights.
Veggie sunsets, having killed one of my knights.
Your commander dies,
Commander will go to the command zone.
and then I'll trade my Lotus Cobra for your 8/8. This will lose a counter because it prevents the damage.
Sure.
But I will take the 8/8 with a snow counter.
Sure, you got it.
Please let me live. 1 turn.
Oh, and then I take 3 knights, so that's
Yep.
9.
Don't go, Jack. Don't go.
I'm hanging in there.
You know, there's not enough room on the door for 2. There's certainly not enough room on the door for 3.
Okay, then I think the best thing I can do now is just pay 2, and I'm going to cast from hand Zoyola's Justice. I'm going to target the Underground Champion. Says the owner of target artifact or creature with mana value 1 or greater shuffles it into their library, then that player discovers X where X is its mana value. That is an instant or sorcery. Electrostatic field will trigger some sadness.
Maybe I can do something? It's a lot of lands. Nope. I got a Dawn Trader Elk. 2 mana, 2/2. I can pay a green to sacrifice it to search for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped.
Dana, you have taken more than 7 damage this turn, so I'm going to activate the Spine Rock Knoll and cast the Hideaway card, which was Call Forth the Tempest.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'm about, that's it for me.
So that is a board wipe that has Cascade. Cascade, it deals damage to each creature my opponents control equal to the total mana value of spells I've cast this turn. That's a lot.
It is more than 2.
But first we're gonna get to Cascade 8, twice. And also Electrostatic Field trigger, so we'll drain. We're going to hit a Keeper of Secrets, which is a first strike haste. We'll play that. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Keeper of Secrets deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So that resolves before the second Cascade trigger does. And then there's the second Cascade, which is Reign of Riches. When it ETBs, create 2 treasures. The first spell I cast this turn that mana from my treasure was spent on also has Cascade. That will trigger Keeper of Secrets. It'll deal 5 damage to my opponent, Dana.
All right.
Oh, valiant effort.
Woo. Well, my Nissa survived through it all, so I'd
That's what
gladly
matters.
die before my Nissa.
I don't mean to brag, but I am the best botanist at this table. You haven't seen The Martian.
Overall, I think the game went pretty well. Everyone got to see what their deck was about, do their own thing for a little bit, and obviously I'm always happy when I get to cast a Nissa, although I wish I had one more turn because I had just drawn Nissa Vital Force and never got the opportunity to play it. But I guess I can't have all the Nissas, right?
Don't forget, thanks to our sponsor Moxfield, now is your chance to submit your favorite deck list to have one of us feature it on the show.
All you have to do is go down below in the description and click the link which will bring you to a Twitter post, and that is where you submit. Easy as that.
I did not know that was a Titanic reference, so.
We're old.
So why is she calling you Jack?
Thank you, Sydney, for giving me one of the perfect Airball decks to play on the channel. I had a ton of fun with it. We did exactly what we wanted to do. We monopolized everyone's time, made them look at us bored for a few minutes before ultimately killing them. But luckily on Mars, we have an extra half hour in our day, so we had time to kill.
Don't forget to support your favorite Commander show by doing something you were going to do anyway, and that's buy Magic singles. And you can do so by using our sponsor, TOA.
It really is that easy, and Tales of Adventure has a wide selection of singles from the most basic printings all the way through the most premium versions. And they've also started stocking sealed product now, so you don't need to go anywhere else for anything Magic.
And you get 5% off your entire order when you use code DECKEDOUT at checkout.
And you should know by now, the link is down in the description, right there.
The trick to getting them to stop doing those long rambling monologues is to just kill them.
Yeah, I could see that, especially there's already the worst land on the table.
Unfortunately, by the time we realized Airball was a problem, it was too late. He got too many free spells. But I did have a ton of fun playing Nick Tercey's deck, and I really do appreciate you submitting it for me. This was the perfect thing for me to play.
That's nice. I feel like the red aggro deck never wins, but it's usually because I'm the one playing it.
Ultimate Guard is the industry leader in TCG accessories.
And Ultimate Guard products are the way that all 3 of us on the Decked Out team are able to organize, protect, and display our collections. And they're the best way to show off all of our cards on camera for you.
So make sure you use the link down below in the description to support the show and pick yourself up some amazing upgrades.
Or you could just do both at the same time and think about what you're doing and think about the jokes.
I think that's what we're saying. He can't.
Yeah,
He does not have the capacity to do that.
That's your own problem.
It's our problem too.
Too much
we had to deal with
fluoride
it.
as a kid.
Airball lived my dream of resolving a Dance of Calamity for 1,000,000 spells. But thanks to TheRealLingani, I also lived my dream of playing a mono blue deck with a bunch of weird janky creatures and losing the game.
Special thank you to our patrons. Without your support, this episode would not be possible.
And it's thanks specifically to patrons like you, Philip, that we're able to put this show on weekly, and we appreciate your help.
And if you're not already a patron, there's no better time to become a part of the show because we're currently working on a goal to stay weekly for all of 2025. Plus, you'll get a bunch of exclusive perks, signed tokens, you can have us play your deck here on the show, or even play some spell table games with us.
And of course, Phil, you can always support the show by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That's all we've got for you for today. We'll see you next time on Decked Out.